We are live on 104.5 The Zone TV and A to Z Sports, getting you ready for Game 5 in Raleigh, North Carolina. Series all knotted up at 2-2. The Nashville Predators back on the road at the Carolina Hurricanes in this Stanley Cup playoffs first-round series after a wild weekend in Bridgestone Arena. 2 double overtime wins to even things up. I'm Lucas Panzica of 104.5 The Zone. He is Alex Daugherty of A to Z Sports. You know him for his excellent Predators coverage. And we are breaking down Preds Canes Game 5 right up to the opening puck drop. Alex, my goodness, what a weekend. And here we are. It is a best of 3 series. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are y'all? How's everyone?
Oh, it's going to be fun, man. I see everybody coming in. Hit us in the chat. Questions, comments, concerns. What do you want to see from the Preds? What's the biggest key in your mind for the Preds to take a series lead for the first time in this 7-game set against the Canes? Of course, lost games 1 and 2 on the road. Won game 3 and 4 in dramatic fashion at home, and now back on the road. Alex, Preds got to win 1 on the road. That's just how it shakes out. Whether it's tonight, whether it's Game 7, you got to take 1 at PNC Arena in Raleigh, and I know they'd like for it to be tonight, to come home with a chance to win in Game 6 in Bridgestone Arena and maybe, like you predicted, see the Preds win in 6 games. But we're going to go right off the bat. How hard is it going to be to win a 3rd straight against the Carolina Hurricanes, the winners of the Central Division?
Well, it's going to be hard for a couple of reasons. Number one, they've obviously not done that yet this season. They have not won a game in Carolina this year, and they have to do that if they want to beat them in this series. The other thing that's going to make it difficult is the Carolina Hurricanes get back arguably their best defenseman. Some would say it's Dougie Hamilton, and others would say it's Jacob Slavin, who gets back in the lineup for the Hurricanes tonight. He has been consistently one of their best players all year. He's an incredible defensive presence. He's a very smart defenseman. I think he took like 2 penalties all season for them as a defenseman. That's just nuts. He's incredibly smart, very skilled. He will probably join the top line back with, or the top pairing with Dougie Hamilton, pushing everybody else down a little bit. So them getting that player back is probably something we haven't talked about enough this week. He played in Game 1. He did not play in 2, 3, or 4 with an injury of some sort. That is a big addition for the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, the Predators, on the other hand, and we do have lineups now we can share here in a second, but the only change is that Tanner Jeannot will step in for Matthew Olivier, who, those 2 players, maybe not the most inconsequential change. They do play a little bit differently. I think it's probably the right move to go with Tanner Jeannot in this one. He's maybe a little bit more skilled. Olivier, a little bit heavier on the physical end. Jeannot, a little bit more skilled, so you need a little bit more skill in the lineup tonight. But if you want, we can go ahead and jump into the lines. You want to go ahead and do this?
Let's do it. Dive right in.
Okay, so basically the only real changes that I'm seeing are that Jeannot will step in on the bottom line with Jakob Trenin and Colton Sissons. That is taking the place of Olivier. The other thing I'm seeing is that Eli Tolvanen will play on the 3rd line. So the second line Sunday and Friday was Tolvanen, Granlund, Cunnin. Tolvanen moves down to the 3rd line with Eric Haula and Nick Cousins. Calle Jarnkrok steps up to the 2nd line. An interesting choice there. I think Tolvanen probably might. I want to say that means Tolvanen's not going to get a lot of clean looks tonight. He's probably going to do a little bit of work to get his shots off tonight. But Calle Jarnkrok on the 2nd line makes a lot of sense. That guy can just do it all. He plays extremely balanced game all around. He can play center, play wing, play on the left, play on the right. Really probably a good sign for him that he's stepping up into the 2nd line. And of course, the top line still together: Forsberg, Johansson, Duchesne. Defense has not changed. Same defensive unit from the Game 3 and 4, and then of course Saros will start.
The 9 line, as it was coined by Channel 2's Emily Proud. I think an apt name for Johansson, Forsberg, and Matt Duchesne. So yes, that is unchanged, but there you have it. It is Olivier in, Tanner Jeannot out, or excuse me, Tanner Jeannot in, Olivier out, reversed from what it was on Sunday, and Jarnkrok and Tolvanen switching spots. Yarncroke to the second line, Tolvanen to the third. So let's dive into that here in just a moment. First, Jacob Slavin, the big lineup change for the Hurricanes. You, before we hit the air here, equated this to like the Predators getting Ryan Ellis or even Roman Josi back. We have not seen him since game one. What does he do well for the Carolina Hurricanes, and just how big a difference is this going to be getting a prized defenseman back to pair with Dougie Hamilton?
Excuse me. Well, he's a big guy, so he's not huge. He's 6'3", 215, something like that. And but he's extremely smart. And the guy plays a very sound defensive game. I think that they're probably going to use him as a stay-at-home guy and allow Dougie Hamilton to step out more and to attack the zone a little bit more frequently. Although they both can do that, they're both good skaters. So I think Slavin is a difference maker. I mean, he's on any team he would be a top defenseman. I mean, he's that good. He's pretty young. I think that they're kind of hoping that Dougie Hamilton will stay around. I think he's in a contract year. But anyways, Jacob Slavin is an excellent addition. Think about this like if you're a Predators fan, this is about like the Predators getting a Ryan Ellis or a Matthias Ekholm or maybe even a Roman Josi back. Maybe not quite the Roman Josi level, but he's right there. I mean, he's probably looking at getting some Norris Trophy votes in the future, not this year, but in the future. He's that good of a player, so he's very, very good. That's a big addition for Carolina. Good for them to get him back in the game. And so this makes the Predators game, our chances of winning this, a little bit harder. Let me go to what Tim is saying there. So Tim Barber says, that he was thinking Tolvanen might be a good try with Hall and Cousins. The problem is, Tim, Tolvanen cannot usually create his own shot. He is not that kind of a player. He's not. Look, Duchesne played on that line with Hall and Cousins all season long. Duchesne can create his own shot. He's got speed. He's got skill. Tolvanen is a catch and shoot guy. I'm not sure that Eric Haula and Nick Cousins can create enough for Tolvanen to catch and shoot and get shots off. So I really don't know. He's got to go somewhere. I think Tolvanen being in the lineup is good, and obviously he'll play in the power play. But I don't know about that move. I think that's going to be interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, what do you make of Eeli Tolvanen in 5-on-5 play in the games he has been in this series?
I mean, he's been about like he was at the end of the season. I mean, kind of. I don't want to say non-existent, but he just gets lost out there. He kind of he's not playing poorly. He's not losing games like a couple of players were earlier in the series. He's not losing games out there for you. He's just not quite the edge that you need. This is frankly a bad matchup for him. I think such a speed physical team. This is a bad matchup for him. If he was going up against like maybe the Dallas Stars, in which a little bit slower team, or maybe even Tampa, who doesn't have quite the speed that Carolina does, he could be a little bit better. I think Tolvanen, until he gets on a line with a playmaker like a Johansson or a Duchesne, he's not quite the difference maker in that role. He's still a good player. I just think his ceiling is kind of right there. He's not a single role, like just create everything kind of player. He's just not there.
Yeah, Caden Jones says, hoping we can keep momentum and start fast and aggressive. That was a point I was going to bring up. I think it's going to be critical, right, to carry over what you did in games 3 and 4. They did it really, really well, I thought, at the start of game 4, just the energy right out the gate. Obviously, you score a goal 57 seconds in with Luke Cunnin bookending, scoring the first goal and the game winner, of course, in double overtime. But that carryover that we saw from games 3 and 4, Alex, I thought it felt like we were watching the same game. The second the puck dropped, I felt like we were watching an extension of that double overtime from Friday. You got to do that tonight, especially in front of a rocking crowd at PNC Arena.
Yeah, it was 3 hours and 11 minutes, I think. 3 hours and 11 minutes. That's how long UC Saros played. 3 hours and 11 minutes between 6 p.m. Friday night and 6 p.m. Sunday night, which is insane to think about. I don't know how much work you did this weekend. I didn't do that much work. I mowed my grass, and that took like an hour. So
not even close. Yeah. The equalizer, right? And that brings us right to our next bullet point. As Jason Martinez asked, do we know yet who the Preds play if they win? Well, don't get ahead of yourself yet here, Jason, but the Preds will play the winner of the Lightning Panthers series, which the Panthers pulled one back, made it a 3-2 series yesterday. That's been a hell of a series to watch, by the way, on the other side of the Central Division. But UC Saros, the equalizer. I heard Mickey Ryan calling that today on Blaine and Mickey. I've been calling him that over the weekend. We know all the numbers. Franchise record, 58 saves. Second goalie since 1955 when the NHL started counting saves as a stat to go back-to-back playoff games with 50-plus saves. I mean, you just can't overstate how important he's been for this team. But you put out a great piece here on A2ZSports.com of UC Saros, not just saying how many saves he had, but going into a little more detail. How do you quantify just how good he was in games 3 and 4? Really how good he's been for this entire series, especially starting in game 2.
Well, he's doing the things that he was doing all season. In my opinion, I think he still looks like the player that we saw start the final 23 games or whatever it was, 23 of 26 games. And the Preds fans have to remember, a lot of Preds fans are used to watching 6'4", 6'5" Pecorine just lunging all over the ice, just acrobatic Superman-like saves. UC Saros is not that guy. He's 5'11". He's smaller. He's quick, and he thinks the game. I mean, Pecorine thinks the game too, but he positions himself so well. So a ton of saves that you see, just he makes look easy. He gathers them in his chest. He gloves them down. He stops the puck. He bats away rebounds. He's very, very smart. And his number one asset, in my opinion, is puck tracking. If you can track the puck and read the play, you can make every stop. I mean, that's the key to any goaltender. If they can track the puck and read the play, they are way ahead of the game, and they can make the save before the shot happens, so to speak. So that's what his game is, and I've seen him do that in this series. The only time the times that he's consistently gotten beaten is on shots up high, which we know that he has a weakness. He's a shorter goalie. He's got a little bit of room there. So shots up high, particularly on his blocker side, which is his right side. He's a left-handed glove. So his blocker side, and then also sometimes he has a little bit of an issue controlling rebounds. That's just been a little bit of an issue. And then of course, anytime that there's any kind of a tip in front, like 2 feet in front of the net, he's at a disadvantage because every goalie's at a disadvantage. Those are tough to stop. Those little deflections that just shoot over change direction at the last fraction of a second, you can't do much about those. So to me, UC Saros looks as good as he ever has, and I think he's obviously the difference maker, and if they can get another great game from him, they have a chance.
Tim Barber says he tracked some crazy deflections last game. Yes. He is the ultimate X factor for the Preds in this series. The only way that they can continue to stay in this series and win games. We saw what kind of effort it took. I mean, that's the thing about UC Saros. As incredible of a performance as we saw from him in games 3 and 4 in Bridgestone Arena, the Preds scratched and clawed their way to 2 double overtime wins in those games. They barely got out of those games and evened up the series with some of the most incredible on paper, the most incredible performance that we've seen from a goaltender in that arena with the franchise record 58 saves. So how much margin for error is there based on what we saw on the weekend? Like, how much drop-off can UC Saros even have for the Preds to still be able to stay in this series? None, right?
Zero? I mean, I don't think any. I mean, especially if this Carolina team, man, they could be a freight train at times when they get going. If they get a couple goals early, they just skate downhill, and it's difficult to stop. I've seen some people saying that they're nervous about this game. I think, who was it? Justin Gambino saying that he's super nervous about this game. Not going to lie. Well, Justin, I've got some stats for you that I think is not going to help you. So maybe this is not going to help ease your nerves. But if you look at Game 5, all right, so Game 5 is a very, very pivotal game in most series, unless it's already up 3-1 or whatever. It's kind of out of reach at that point. But because normally Game 5s are 2-2, right? They're usually even series, and it usually sets the tone for who's going to have home ice in Game 7 or Game 6 or 7. Who's going to have home ice to clinch it? I guess is what I'm saying. And also who's probably going to move on. Game 5 is so important. So the Predators have played, I wrote it down here. The Predators have played 13 Game 5s in the last 11 years or so. 13 Game 5s. Most of those are with the series tied 2-2. They've lost 9 of those. They're 4-9 in Game 5s. Now, not every series of those that they lose. There were a couple series that they ended up winning, even though they lost Game 5, but most of them are not. Most recently, you had they lost Game 5 to Dallas. I've got them written down here. Sorry, I was just looking down my sheet here. They lost Game 5 to Dallas 2 years ago. They lost that series. They lost Game 5 to Winnipeg at home. They lost that series in 7 at home. The bigger examples, let's go back to 2017 against Pittsburgh. They lost that one 6-0. That was a bloodbath on the
Stanley
road.
Cup Finals.
Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
Remember that one very well because of how poorly they played. Pecorino gets pulled after the first period. There's fights everywhere. There's a Swedish civil war on the ice is what we called it between all the Swedish players. That was a terrible game. And then they came back home, and Game 6, obviously, Pittsburgh clinches. That was the series. But even going back before 2017, they lost Game 5 to St. Louis, where they could have clinched. 2016. But let's go all the way back to where this began. And this is kind of where I wanted to go with this. Game 5 for a long time was a very poor memory, I'll put it that way, for a lot of Predators fans because of a particular game in 2010 against the Chicago Blackhawks. Do you know what game I'm talking about? Do you know this game? Do you remember this? Were you paying attention then?
Refresh my memory, Alex.
Okay.
I was in 8th grade.
So, okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'm sure there's other people that may not remember this. So here's what happened. The series is tied 2-2. Road game, Game 5, United Center in Chicago. Predators have the lead 4-3 with about a minute left in the game. Okay, so just setting the stage for you. They got a lead. They clinched this game. They got a chance to win their first playoff series against Chicago. Actually, their first playoff series ever at that point. At home, they got a chance. They got 1 minute left. Dan Hamhuis gets boarded by Marian Hossa. So the Predators are on the power play with a minute left. Power play, minute left, already up 1. All you got to do is just hold on to the puck. Or as they say in soccer, take it to the flag, right? Take it to the corner flag. That's all you got to do. So there's a turnover. Martin Erat famously turned the puck over. Blackhawks, of course, get a shorthanded goal to tie it up with about 30 seconds left. And the Blackhawks ice it in overtime and win. Marian Hossa, who was guilty of the infraction, wins it. So the Blackhawks win Game 5. Now, mind you, this is 2010. The Blackhawks turned that into not just 1, but 2, but 3 Stanley Cup victories. If you talk to Blackhawks fans now, they will swear to you that Game 5 fueled them. And if they lose that Game 5, maybe they don't win 3 Stanley Cups. Blackhawks fans, you talk to them, they will swear to this. That Game 5 was a turning point for them. And so, yeah, anyways, I bring that up because those are the memories that a lot of Predators fans have. Now, this team is totally different. I mean, there's barely any players that are still on that team. Rene and I guess I don't even know. That might be the only one that might still be on that team. But that is the danger of remembering what this Game 5 does to Preds fans. So all these people saying they're nervous, that might be why they're nervous, because they have a bad history, 9 losses in 13 Game 5s.
Well, Stephen Brooks, says, I'll never forget Erat for that one. And if I'm not mistaken, Preds have never won a Game 5 after losing the first 2 games in a series. Right. So the Preds have never won 3 in a row after falling in Games 1 and 2, which is what they are, of course, looking to do tonight. We are live at 104.5 The Zone's Twitter and Twitch streams, A to Z Sports, Facebook Live, and YouTube. Lucas Panzica with you alongside Alex Daugherty, taking you right up to puck drop. We're going to go about 10 minutes, maybe a little less here, as the Preds play Game 5, series tied up 2-2 at PNC Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina. Alex, okay, I want to hit on the power play here. And the power play has been talked about ad nauseum when it comes to the Predators all season, not only this year, but last year, the year before that. It feels like the year before that. The Nashville Predators in this series are 2 of 19 on the power play. That is a 12% clip. Now, we saw some improvement over the weekend. John Hines said after the 0-for-10 start on the power play in Games 1 and 2, I thought this was interesting because he was very specific here. You don't often see, you definitely never saw stuff like this from Peter Laviolette, right? John Hines said the Preds have to do a better job of identifying break-ins, understanding where the pressure is coming from, and finding the right release points. Mm-hmm. Now, it wasn't a huge improvement. 2 of 9 on the power play since then. That's better than 0 and 10. What does that mean to you? How can you simplify that, finding the right release points, and have the Preds done a better job of that in Games 3 and 4?
Okay, so I actually kind of have a different take than John Hines, because I don't necessarily think it's about the release point. I think it's about the point, the goal. It's about getting pressure in that goal. Think about the 2 goals they've scored on the power play. One, a really dirty goal, just a disgusting goal by Mikhail Granlund, where he's just digging the puck out from behind. From behind the Nedeljkovic.
On the 3-on-5.
On the 3-on, the 5-on-3, right. And then And then the other one is the Nick Cousins tip, which, I mean, tip goals are the only way you get them is if you go to the front of the net. So, look, most power play goals are not these beautiful angled plays where it's a tic-tac-toe bumper play from behind the net that you see teams like Carolina and Tampa doing all the time.
They're ugly.
Yeah, they're ugly. They're ugly goals. They're tips. They're rebounds in front because you have a player advantage on the other team. So you can have an extra guy there. And that's what teams do is they put usually two guys in front, one low, one high, and they have three guys around the outside to pass it around and look for angles. So I think it's really more about the grind. And that's why he went with a little bit more of a grinding line. Johansson comes off the power play. Duchesne comes off the power play. He wasn't about to take Forsberg off the power play. You can't do that. But he did. He put Yarncroke out there. I want to say Sissons was out there. Granlund was out there. Obviously, Nick Cousins was out there. And then you got your defensemen like Yossi and Ellis and Ekholm all out there. Really, really different look on the power play. And that's what it takes. You got to have guys that can dig in and find those pucks in front of the net because that's where the goals are.
Okay, on the flip side of that, the Carolina Hurricanes had one of the best power plays in the NHL. It was consistent all season long. They finished the season, Alex, with the second best power play in the league, as you know, at over a 25% clip. The Carolina Hurricanes, through the first 4 games of this series, are 2 of 14 on the power play. As much criticism as we've given the Predators' power play, and rightfully so, there should be as much praise, I think, heaped on the Preds' penalty kill. Now, a lot of that, obviously, due to UC Saros and how incredible he's played in this series. But what are the Preds doing well on the penalty kill? Because they have stymied the second best, statistically, the second best power play in this league through the regular season. And those numbers are right up there with the Preds numbers. Carolina fans have to be freaking out about the power play right now.
Yeah, I think it's actually they're doing something similar to what Carolina does. I mean, look, most penalty kills play a similar system. They play either a 1-3 or some sort of a diamond. A 1-3 being just like, in soccer, a 4-4-2. You got 4 defensemen, 4 midfielders, 2 attackers. A 1-3, you got 1 defenseman back and 3 up high. And that's to prevent the entry. But then when they sit back, they have to rotate well. They have to read the play. The attackers can't be too aggressive, but they have to give pressure. They have to deny as much time and space as they can. And those defensemen in front of the net have to body up someone and get the blue ice clear so UC can see the puck. And they're just doing a little bit better job at that. I don't think that they have changed anything tactically. I think that they're playing just as aggressive as they have in the past. I don't know that they're doing a whole lot different. So the penalty kill looks, I think that they've gotten a little lucky maybe on the fact that Carolina has missed a couple of these shots, but they still have allowed. So when you look at some of the underlying metrics, the expected goals that the Predators are allowing, they're among the best teams in the NHL in the playoffs at allowing the least amount of expected goals. They've only allowed 2 power play goals. That's as good as any other team in the league other than a couple. So, they've played well. You got to give it to the penalty kill. You don't want to play with fire though. You got to stay out of the box if you're going to beat this Carolina team.
All right, on the way out, as we wrap things up here, we're just minutes away from puck drop. The Preds at the Carolina Hurricanes. It's Game 5, series tied up 2-2. You talked about it today on the Buck Rising show, the curveball that John Hines has thrown into this series. Give him credit. He was outcoached in Games 1 and 2. He comes back with the 9 line. Matt Duchesne, Philip Forsberg, and Ryan Johansson. They are back tonight. How much of a difference does that line need to continue to make? The level of performance that we saw from those guys, specifically Matt Duchesne, who's gotten the most criticism throughout the series and throughout the season, where does their level of play need to be tonight as they try to build off of what they were able to do in Games 3 and 4?
I'm going to say it needs to be even better than it's been in Game 3 and 4. I mean, at its best so far, they were only able to pull out a couple of double overtime victories. They need to be even better going into Carolina. They need to be unstoppable offensively and totally shut down defensively. And that's tough to do look, they can do it for a couple games, but they need to do it for a third. And they need to step it up tonight because if you go down 3-2 and first of all, if you go down 3-2, you're either going to be eliminated on Thursday or you're going to have to come back for a Game 7, and they do not want to do that. So, it's going to be tough for that line to contribute or to consistently play at a high level, but they're going to have to. They need to be. There you go. Tim Barber says the 9 line needs to be an 11 out of 10. I would agree with that from Tim. And Tim also said that they need to keep the front of the net more clear on the Preds PK. I think they've done a pretty good job of that, but they've some of that is done, mostly. Some of that is because of where Saros plays. He plays a little bit further back in the net and then comes out. So you have to give him a little bit more room. But I think that if they can keep clearing the front of the net, like I said before, that's where the power play goals are scored, is that front of the net. So yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know what happened to your audio. Did it lose audio on you?
Oh, I had myself muted.
Okay.
So that line remains intact, the 9 line of Duchesne, Johansson, and Forsberg. As we take one other quick look at the lineup changes, it is Tanner Jeannot. He is back in for Matthew Olivier on the Herd line. Ellie Tolvanen down to the 3rd line, and up goes Callie Yarncrow. Minimal changes. Victor Arvidsson still out. Dante Fabro still out for Game 5 tonight. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us as we are just moments away from puck drop. Alex, just on the way out, last thing here. We know UC Saros is the key, right? To allow the Preds to stay in this series, to stay in any series they're going to be in this postseason. We've been saying that out of the gate. What's the number one thing the Predators need to do to make his life just a little bit easier tonight on the road in a hostile environment and stay in this game?
Get out to an early lead. The first 10 minutes of this game could seal it. Either way. If they come out and in the first 10 minutes get a goal, maybe even 2, they are well on their way, because then, like we've said before, they can sit back in a trap, force Carolina to have to go outside and not up the middle, and they're well on their way to winning the game. On the other hand, if Carolina gets off to a fast start, it could be a long night and a poor result. So the first 10 minutes, watch the first 10 minutes of this game. Based on that play, I think you'll see kind of how it's going to go.
Yeah, and Caden Jones said it right out the gate. Hoping we can keep momentum and start fast and aggressive could be the difference here if the Preds break their franchise winless record in Game 5 after losing Games 1 and 2. Puck drop coming up. Stay with us post-game. Myself, Alex Daugherty, we will be back on 104.5 The Zone's Twitter and Twitch, A to Z Sports on YouTube and Facebook, reacting to whatever happens tonight in Raleigh, North Carolina before they come back to Nashville for Game 6. Alex Daugherty, enjoy the game. We'll talk to you afterwards.
Thanks, everyone, for all the comments. Appreciate you guys stopping in.
Puck drop coming up. Preds Canes, Game 5. Stay with us post-game.